So today I consider myself as an overlander because I've overlanded all the continents on this planet, and till date I have 79 countries on my motorcycle, wherein I have taken my own motorcycle and ridden across these 79 countries. And these are not like touch and go. I mean, I've fairly done a bit of exploration because the world is so big, and I believe one life is just not enough. For an Indian to travel on a blue passport in those days was pretty cumbersome. Okay. And at every border you used to stop and, like, where did you get your visa? Show me how much money do you have? I mean, all these things, In those days, we were not really having access to Google or news. I mean, you whatever happens, you're seeing it right in front of you.
Exactly.
What happens elsewhere in the world, you don't have a connect. There was an extensive check against my background, including a policeman knocking on my Rajajnagar home and asking my mom, Deepak Kamath.
Okay.
I believe there are no failures in life. It's always an opportunity that's coming to your doorstep one more time. And that one more time, you need to be cautious. You need to be more wise how you want to approach it. 267 hours of riding, 11,180 kilometers, and we got featured in the Limca Book of Records 1995 with the picture. I'm talking about 1989, wherein the world was having very few automobiles on the road. So there was more space for everybody.
Okay.
Today, there is no space for anybody. The minute I said, hey, I'm going on a motorcycle, that chap at the counter rejected on the stamp on which my visa was issued. Even today, when I say we have done the road of cones, a lot of people will not know what is road of cones.
Correct.
So, I take a step back and say, I used to work in a financial institution. They asked me to relocate to Hyderabad. I said, I'm not married to them. It was a very difficult decision. But for me, it's been a bold decision. And thankfully, my wife stood by my, decision and said, jo hoga so dekha jayega. And then, I just went out and traveled.
ನಮಸ್ಕಾರ ಎಲ್ರಿಗೂ, ನೀವು ನೋಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದೀರಾ ನಿಮ್ಮ ಪರ್ಸ್ಪೆಕ್ಟಿವ್ ಟಾಕ್ ಶೋ. ಇನ್ ಟುಡೇಸ್ ಎಪಿಸೋಡ್ ವಿ ಹ್ಯಾವ್ ಅ ವಂಡರ್ಫುಲ್ ಅಡ್ವೆಂಚರರ್ enthusiast ಶ್ರೀ ದೀಪಕ್ ಕಾಮತ್ ಸರ್. We have divided the whole episode into two parts, wherein he has shared his wonderful travel experiences and brutal damages which people have done in the name of tourism to our environment. He has traveled across the world with just a motorcycle in record-breaking time, even before Google Maps existed. He is a Guinness record holder and has seen inaccessible locations across 7 continents, including Antarctica, in a bike. After watching this episode, I'm pretty sure many of you will pack your bags and head towards the mountains. Deepak Kamath sir, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you, Shashank.
Sir, I think, for our viewers, okay, yeah, for someone who doesn't know who you are, because, we know you through, your, what do you say, extremely raw, reels which you post wherein, you brutally tell, this is not how it's supposed to be and this is how it's supposed to be. And that's how I know you. Yeah. And for someone who doesn't know, because it's not easy for a person to travel in bike in all the 7 continents, including Antarctica. Yeah. And that's something everyone dream about. Yeah. And you have completed your probably 6 continents bike tour even before 1995. Yeah. I think that's way before Google Maps were existing. Today, if we need to come to your location, we on our maps and sir, really right, really
correct,
left. We get confused. Yeah. I think you used to have paper maps, I guess. So, I don't know. So, where do we start exactly?
Yeah. Thanks, Shashank. You've fairly encapsulated much of it. My name is Deepak Kamath, for the audience who are watching this show. And I have been overlanding since 1988, if I may go back to those years. And much of my travel has been embedded in me by my mom, who used to be an employee with a nationalized bank. And ಅವ್ರಿಗೆ ಆ ಟೈಮಲ್ಲೆಲ್ಲ ಈ LTA ಎಲ್ಲ ಇತ್ತು. ಸೊ ಲೀವ್ ಟ್ರಾವೆಲ್ ಅಲೋವೆನ್ಸ್ ಅಂತೇಳಿ. ಸೊ ಎವ್ರಿ 2 years, certain number of kilometers, certain, in 4 years, additional number of kilometers. ಸೊ ಅವ್ರೇನು ಮಾಡ್ತಾಯಿದ್ರು, ಶಿ ಯೂಸ್ ಟು 2 ವರ್ಷದಲ್ಲಿ ಎಲ್ಲೂ ಹೋಗೋದು ಬೇಡ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿದ್ರೆ, ದೆನ್ ಶಿ ಯೂಸ್ ಟು ಕ್ಯಾರಿ ಫಾರ್ವರ್ಡ್ ದಟ್ ಟು 4 years. ಸೊ a bigger window of travel was in our luxury.
And all these were paid by the
Bank.
bank.
So most of the expenses, the travel expenses were paid by the bank, and certain accommodation as well, depending on her grade, we used to stay. And ಒಂದು 2-3 ಸತಿ ನಾವು ಡೆಲ್ಲಿ ಕಡೆ ಹೋದಾಗ ಡೆಲ್ಲಿ ಕರ್ನಾಟಕ ಸಂಘದಲ್ಲಿ it's a benefit to people traveling out of Karnataka to that part, wherein we can avail accommodation with them. So that was the travel, the kida ant heltaralla, I am sure it came through my mom. Okay. Then of course school admele I was in Bharat Scouts and Guides. I am a scout kuda. I used to go on short camps which was organized by the Bharat Scouts. And when I joined college, our own MES college in Malleshwaram, ಅಲ್ಲಿ 2 ಥರದ NCC ಇತ್ತು. One is battalion and the other one was armored squadron.
Correct.
So the armored squadron has got 165 cadets across Karnataka and Goa. And the major portion of cadets comes to Karnataka. Karnatakadalli major portion between St. Joseph's College of Bangalore and MES College used to have the major numbers. So I definitely chose the One Karnataka Armored Squadron. And during my 4-year stint with One Karnataka Armored Squadron, I got an opportunity to travel to Mau in Ahmednagar and Mau in Maharashtra. Then Siliguriಯಲ್ಲಿ ಒಂದು ಬೇಸಿಕ್ ಲೀಡರ್ಶಿಪ್ ಕ್ಯಾಂಪ್ ಆಯಿತು. Then of the 3,000 odd cadets who are usually there during January for the Republic Day parade, in 1988 I got an opportunity to march on the Rajpath. Wow. The 175 cadets chosen amongst the 3,000 cadets marching on the Rajpath, that's something, a dream come true. And I remember ಆ ಟೈಮಲ್ಲಿ there were 2 NCC cadets who were cycling around the world, and they had come to India, and probably they were starting, I don't really recollect, but I was made their flag bearer when marching past the Prime Minister, then was our late Rajiv Gandhi.
This is in 1980?
This is 1988. 1988, 27th Jan is the PM's rally. So PM's rally, they usually hand out the best contingent, and Karnataka and Goa won it that year as well. And these 2 boys from Karnataka who were cycling around the world, they had come down. So I was a flag bearer. So that may have triggered thoughts to look at travel a different way. So today I consider myself as an overlander, because I've overlanded all the continents on this planet, and till date I have 79 countries on my motorcycle, wherein I have taken my own motorcycle and ridden across these 79 countries, and these are not like touch and go. I mean, I've fairly done a bit of exploration, because the world is so big, and I believe one life is just not enough.
Correct, sir.
Yeah. So I believe I've evolved since 1988 till now. I'm just recently back from my most recent ride across some of the most beautiful regions our own country has to offer. So 1988 was All India Cycling Expedition, and as NCC cadets, my then partner Gururaj and me, we became the first NCC cadets to travel across 12,000 kilometers of India and Nepal on a cycle. On a cycle, yeah. We went to Chennai. BSA cycles, TI, Tube Investments of India, our manufacture ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ರು. That was the time when BSA Mach 5 had been released. Though it is not an ideal cycle, but that was the only cycle which had gears. So ಅದನ್ನು ನೋಡಿ ನಾವು ಅಲ್ಲಿಗೆ ಹೋಗಿ ನಮಗೊಂದು 300 ರೂಪಾಯಿ ಡಿಸ್ಕೌಂಟ್ ಕೊಟ್ಟರು. 1,715 or 1,800 rupees, I think we got it.
So this was again in 1988.
88, yeah. Then that was a stupendous achievement, like the entire college. I mean, I still have that picture with me. The entire MES college, and I believe you are also an MES college graduate, right? So, ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಆ ಕ್ವಾಡ್ರ್ಯಾಂಗಲ್ ಇದೆಯಲ್ಲ, ಆ ಕ್ವಾಡ್ರ್ಯಾಂಗಲಲ್ಲಿ 3 ಫ್ಲೋರು, ಆ 3 ಫ್ಲೋರಲ್ಲೂ ಒಂದು 3,000 ಸ್ಟೂಡೆಂಟ್ಸು, ಎವ್ರಿಬಡಿ, ಐ ಮೀನ್ ಲೈಕ್ ಎವ್ರಿಬಡಿ ವಾಸ್ ವಾಚಿಂಗ್ ಅವರ್ ಸ್ಟೇಟ್ ಟು ಸ್ಟೇಟ್ ಟ್ರಾನ್ಸಿಷನ್. ನಾವು ಏನು ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ವಿ, ಐ ಮೀನ್ ಥ್ಯಾಂಕ್ಸ್ ಟು ದಿ NCC ಮೇಜರ್ಸ್, Major Vishwanath Shastri and Major Raghavan Rao, I think they stood by, and then of course our physical education director, Mr. B.V. Vijay. Ivrella, I mean, of course, the entire faculty, they were so supportive. And when we came back victorious, the entire college, our director of MES College, Professor M.P.L. Shastri, ಮತ್ತೆ ಪ್ರಿನ್ಸಿಪಲ್ ಶೇಷಾದ್ರಿ ಅಯ್ಯಂಗಾರ್ ಅವರು ಎಲ್ಲರೂ ಸೇರಿ the kind of welcoming that we got kind of laid my foundation, like, I mean, this is what ಹೀಗೆ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದಾರೆ ಇವರು ಅಂತ.
Correct.
So that prompted me to kind of look at cycling beyond our borders.
Okay.
And that laid a plan for cycling around the world. So incidentally, during the All India Cycling Expedition, I got an opportunity to meet the then Prime Minister Rajiv Gandhi.
Oh.
So 1989 alli somehow I was able to sneak into his daily darshan thing, and he connected me to the Air India folks. And Air India said, we will give you tickets wherever Air India flies. So in those days, traveling between countries or continents was really difficult. So when Air India came in as a sponsor, one of the major expenses was taken care. So from Bangalore, I cycled to Bombay. From Bombay, I flew to Kenya. That was my first mistake, because Kenya, I had not done my groundwork. Sudan had locked borders. There was no way they were allowing any cyclists to cycle across Kenya into Sudan.
Okay.
So thankfully, alli HMT ittu, Hindustan Mission Tools alli. I still remember this gentleman's name, Mr. Shiv Shankar.
African continent back then, HMT.
Yes, in Kenya. Yeah.
Okay.
But they were only into tools and machining, watches alla.
Okay.
They were into tools and machining, and Mr. Shiv Shankar, he was happy to accommodate me into his home. Our family jote iddu. And then when we realized that Kenya inda Sudan hogakagala anteli, he was able to arrange a flight ticket for me from Kenya into Egypt. So Egypt alli, I think the ambassador was our own Mangalore MP Margaret Alva's brother, P. Nazarath. So he was very instrumental in helping me get more of my visas.
Okay.
So one of the biggest drawback that I realized was this whole project of cycling around the world was put in a haste. Because school friends ಎಲ್ಲ ಕೇಳಕ್ಕೆ ಸ್ಟಾರ್ಟ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ರು, ಸೈಕ್ಲಿಂಗ್ ಆಲ್ ಓವರ್ ಇಂಡಿಯಾ ಆಯ್ತಲ್ಲ, ಇನ್ನೇನು ಇವಾಗ ವರ್ಲ್ಡ್ ಸೈಕ್ಲಿಂಗ್ ಮಾಡ್ತೀಯ. ಸೊ ಕೈಂಡ್ ಆಫ್ ಲೈಕ್ ದಟ್ ವಾಸ್ ಫ್ಯೂಯಲ್. I said, like, okay, all right, why not? So without doing proper groundwork, I started this off. And though remotely I have regrets, I have moved on, because there's no point in, ಹೀಗೆ ಮಾಡ್ಬೋದಿತ್ತಲ್ಲ, ಹಾಗೆ ಮಾಡ್ಬೋದಿತ್ತಲ್ಲ. Like, you've learned from your mistakes.
Correct.
So I went to Egypt. The kind ambassador was able to get me visas wherever required. I was there for about 15, 20, 30 days. I don't remember. But when time came for me to leave Cairo, after having extensively traveled on my cycle in Egypt, from Cairo I landed in Athens, and from Athens I started cycling across the north. Towards Thessaloniki, and Bulgaria was still an Iron Curtain country. They used to close borders by 6 in the evening. So I pitched my tent and cycle locked to a tree, and I slept for the night. And next day morning I see my lock is there, my cycle is missing. Sure. So I had exited Greece. Okay. There was no point going back. And I had to move on into Bulgaria. So at the border checkpost, I registered my complaint. See, I was on a cycle, I have my pictures. And there were certain news bits that was released by the Rotary Club guys, because Rotary was extensively helping me in many places. So I lodged my complaint and I moved on, and I met the Indian ambassador, Mr. Girish Dhumbe, in Sofia. And I lodged my request saying that, this was my cycle and it's not there. He tried his best, but nothing happened. From there, I reached out to my friend in Bologna in Italy, and I started hitchhiking and trekking and reached Zagreb in Yugoslavia. Mostly, many of our current generation may not know that there was a country called Yugoslavia.
Correct.
And in those days, it's not like this.
Okay.
Today, we have a Schengen visa which allows you to travel across 27 plus countries. But in those days, every country required you to have a visa.
Oh, okay. In their own individual visas, as you say.
Absolutely. So Egypt Indian ambassador, when he was helping me, I had to reach out to different embassies to get their visa, and every visa was a transit visa, because for an Indian to travel on a blue passport in those days was pretty cumbersome.
Okay.
You know, at every border you used to stop and, like, where did you get your visa? Show me how much money do you have? I mean, all these things, And it really happened when, I was made to deboard a train which was traveling, where I had bought a ticket from Zagreb to Bologna because there was a friend of mine, hoping I would seek her help there. But I was made to deboard in Trieste, and there was an extensive check against my background, including a policeman coming knocking on my Rajajinagar home and asking my mom, "Illi Deepak Kamath."
Okay.
So when mom used to, when mom told that, no, our cycling allidare, and the whole protocol of, like the check going back all the way to Trieste, and only then, that took about 36 hours. So if I have to put it in blunt words, I was a guest with the immigration police. They looked after me well, but, unfortunately, there was a suspicion. Because in those days, Italy used to be the gateway for infiltrators getting into Europe.
Correct.
And to make matters worse, I believe there were a lot of Indians who were trying to sneak out of their country and using cycling as a medium to settle down in various countries. Correct. Let's not get into that. So I reached Bologna. My friend had got married and she was away on a honeymoon into UK. So that was another connect lost. I somehow managed to reach Rome and asked Air India, guys, ನನಗೆ ಒಂದು ಬ್ಯಾಂಗ್ಳೂರಿಗೆ ಟಿಕೆಟ್ ಕೊಡ್ತೀರಾ ವಾಪಸ್ಸು?
Okay, and
So Rome, Bombay, and I came back one fine Sunday morning. I'm knocking on my Rajajinagar home and said, "Mom is so happy and thrilled to see me."
Okay.
Yeah, that was 1989. And I think I learned a lot from those mistakes. And I believe for my subsequent trip that happened, I think this has been a foundation of wrongs, and which I tried to avoid repeating it again.
Correct.
So then there is a song in which it very categorically says, Rishwat dena to maa baap ne hi sikhaya. I kind of forget whether it is Three Idiots or Tare Zameen Par. I think it's Tare Zameen Par.
Okay.
Where like Rishwat dena to maa baap ne hi sikhaya. So, when I passed out from my 10th into second PU, my mom said, second PU in the first degree, you get good marks, you'll get a motorcycle.
Okay.
So that's exactly happened, and she ended up buying a second-hand Yezdi motorcycle from one of our colleagues.
So again, this was in 1990?
This is 1990, yeah, 89 to 90. Yeah.
Okay.
So then I got a second-hand Yezdi, and then there was no looking back. A good friend's father was another great support, wherein he funded my first dream of traveling around India and trying to reach Khardungla Pass. This was 1991.
I think, so far you have told about your European trip and, how you achieved it. Even, with all such mistakes, here and there, which happened. What I felt is, there are a lot of people among us, on a day in, day out basis, we'll be like, okay, let's plan a trip for this location. Let's plan a trip for that location next year. And it keeps on postponing.
Correct.
You were the one back in 1988 who dreamt about traveling across India and across, the world.
Yeah.
And probably you took that initiative to do it on your own, no matter how, bad or, good the journey is.
Yeah.
And moreover, how I see you is probably if you had not traveled across Europe in your cycle, you wouldn't have, been so seasoned with knowledge and experiences, sitting and explaining these things.
Yeah.
It takes a lot of, efforts and probably...
I believe we learn from mistakes, Shashank.
Correct.
And unfortunately, there are not many people who realize it and continue to do mistakes after mistakes.
Exactly.
I mean, see, now I'll give you a very classic example. You've hit a nails, you hit a bullseye here. 1991, when I first did my trip on my Yezdi, I wanted to reach Khardungla Pass from the Srinagar side.
Okay.
And unfortunately, when it came from the Srinagar side to Sonmarg, and after Sonmarg, there was a landslide.
Okay.
So, I mean, like in those days, we were not really having access to Google or news or, I mean, like whatever happens, you're seeing it right in front of you.
Exactly.
What happens elsewhere in the world, you don't have a connect.
Correct.
Right? I mean, news was always a delayed medium. So when it came to reaching Khardungla, it did not happen. And there again, I suffered. I mean, it was I wouldn't say it a failure. I mean, there are no failures in your life. I believe there are no failures in your life. It's always an opportunity that's coming to your doorstep one more time. And that one more time, you need to be cautious. You need to be more wise how you want to approach it. Now, when we came back, the first time when I wanted to do this, I had reached out to the Ideal Java guys in Mysore. That is where the factory of Yezdi was. And the kind folks there, including the managing director, now late Mr. Tempton Irani,
Okay.
he just told his Yezdi, the R&D guys, like prepare his bike. They prepared the bike, we went via Sonmarg, we failed, we came back. I reached out to the Yezdi folks and said, like, hey, I failed because it was Sonmarg. And this time I want to start from Kanyakumari. And via Manali route, I would like to reach Khardungla. And within 100 days, this is within 100 days. This is something that is really, I think, this is where I believe dream it, dare it. So 100 days after the first failure, I got on to CNA 237. That was the name of the Yezdi Road King. That was R&D machine, the Yezdi R&D motorcycle, which they loaned to me, and we prepared that bike we in the sense I had a mechanic friend in me, Baswaraj. He's still a very good friend. We went down to Kanyakumari and we took to the roads. We reached Manali. From Manali, Sarchu, Rotang. Manali, Rotang, Baralacha, and Taglangla and Khardungla.
Okay.
And we came back, went to Nepal, came down to Hyderabad, 267 hours of riding, 11,180 kilometers, and we got featured in the Limca Book of Records 1995 with the picture.
Okay.
And Khardungla Pass in those days was the highest motorable road in the world, 18,380 feet above sea level.
Okay.
And before reaching that place was a place called South Pulu, wherein there was just one army barrack.
Okay.
And in that there was one major who stopped us and said, permission है क्या जाने के लिए? Sir, कहाँ से लेना है permission? Permission तो आपको ले जाना पड़ेगा. So he was just reluctant to send us across South Pulu. And then we came back and I was an NCC cadet. I used to be an NCC cadet, 91, yeah. I went to Leh. I walked into the commander's office, gave him a very smart civilian salute. Jai Hind, sir.
Okay.
And the minute he looked at me, he thought I am an army guy. I said, नहीं, मैं NCC में था. कहाँ पे? वन कर्नाटका मुझको. हाँ, तो टैंक में तो बैठे होगे. सर, टैंक में भी बैठा हूँ, फायरिंग भी किया हूँ.
Okay.
कौन सा टैंक में फायरिंग किया हूँ? T-72 में किया हूँ सर, अर्जुन में किया हूँ सर. So 5-10 minutes of casual discussion, coffee, chai, biscuit हो गया, and then return permission. And next thing is, both my friend Baswaraj and me are riding to South Pulu, meeting the same major. ये लीजिए सर permission. हाँ, आप फोटो कैमरा ले जा रहे हो? हाँ सर, एक फोटो तो लेना पड़ेगा. एक ही फोटो और खारडुंगला का बोर्ड है ना, उसी के ऊपर नजर रखना. वो नॉर्थ पुलू की तरफ.
Okay, that was probably a disputary land or something like that.
Absolutely, they were just, see, the whole region was disputed. Trust me, when we did our first ride, we were escorted in Srinagar city.
Wow, okay.
And thankfully at the border, they were not allowing people to cross Srinagar. And fortunately for us, one of the Subedar, I don't remember his rank, but he was from Belgaum. And my friend is from Belgaum. So they have a different Kannada dialect.
Correct.
So they started talking and he put a protocol in place wherein one jeep, escorted us across through the city of Srinagar. Yahan se wahan tak. And then we were on our own. So it was like, we didn't ask for it. That's what we got.
Correct.
So Sonmarg, of course, landslide, and again we are back in Srinagar, and again the same protocol for us to cross Srinagar city. It was a disputed city there, right? Yeah. So came back and we thanked Mr. Templeton Irani, Mr. Bowman Irani, who is now an investor with Classic Legends in bringing out the new resurrected brands of Java and Yezdi. So, and in 1991, I remember there were people who were zipping around the world in a car.
Okay.
And I remember the first couple were from Calcutta, Nina and Saluddin Chowdhury. They circumnavigated the world by car in 53 days.
53 days.
Yes.
Okay.
And they used a Hindustan Contessa
Wow. Okay.
to go around the world. And then there is a British adventurer team called the British Army. They broke the record in about 40 days.
Okay.
And notwithstanding the loss of his title, Nina and Saluddin Chowdhury zipped around the world again and beating the British Army by a few hours. They did it in about 38 or 39 days.
Okay.
I don't exactly remember the exact time.
Okay.
But this time they used Mitsubishi Lancer.
Wow. The Lancer.
They used an imported car, let me put it that way. Though Mitsubishi Lancer came under the purview of Hindustan Motors later to be sold, then Navin Kapil and his team from Delhi, they beat Nina and Saluddin Chowdhury's record by a few hours again. I think the current record, it's not a record anymore. It's about 37 days or 36 days. But in a nutshell, people were zipping around the world in a car.
Okay.
So 1991, when we became victorious, having reached Khardungla in record time and having covered, 11,180 kilometers in 267 hours and getting ourselves into the record books, I told Mr. Templeton Irani and Mr. Bowman Irani in their office, I'd like to go around the world on a Yezdi Road King in 60 days.
Wow. I think, sir, this is, too much for us to, take in because, you started with a cycle and then now you're in a bike.
Shashank, the world is so big and I believe I have no patience nor the energy to cycle. There are people cycling around the world. I have huge respect for them because I come from that background.
Correct.
I gave up cycling, saying that, nahi yaar, ye cycling mere bas ki baat nahi.
Correct. But again, sir, we live in a generation wherein, traveling from Bangalore, Nagasandra to probably Eco World and Bellandur, takes 2 hours and you...
Shashank, I'll tell you, you can still do it if not for the proper infrastructure that is not in place.
Correct.
Today, if, I've traveled so extensively across the world, cyclists have the right of way. And there are countries which have dedicated cycling paths. Forget the pedestrian paths. They have dedicated cycling paths.
Okay.
And when I went to Norway, there was a guy who was cycling from the northernmost tip of Norway, of Europe, which is Nordkapp. And he was trying to cut across to Oslo in record time on a cycle. So people still cycle. It's only in my country, and particularly if you have to refer Bangalore, there's no room for cyclists.
Correct.
Let's face it.
Yeah.
First of all, there are no pedestrian, there's no footpath. It's madness.
Correct.
So if you're trying to put something in Bangalore, I'm sorry, it's not happening. You'll literally get run over.
Correct.
I'm talking about 1989, wherein the world was having very few automobiles on the road.
Exactly.
So there was more space for everybody.
Okay.
Today, there is no space for anybody.
Correct. Because, I find it difficult, to cycle when a bus passes near us.
Because the bus driver would never know you. Exactly. He will not see you. He'll be looking at a two-wheeler because he's more scared that he may touch a two-wheeler. And cyclists, though, you don't even exist.
Run over us. So again, sir, coming back to your...
So the first reaction from Bowman Irani was, are you nuts?
Okay.
That was his reaction. Are you nuts? And 10 days, Bowman, let's do it. Bowman, let's do it. Bowman, let's do it. And finally he says, chalo, let's do it.
Okay.
So it took me 10 days of, literally piche padne ka uska. And I believe he's been a great source of inspiration. He continues to be. And, the entire plan was discussed. A new machine was pulled out, prepared in the R&D, then started the rigmarole of running to various embassies. Because this time I was not ready to make a mistake what I had done in 1989. I just flew out of the country with one visa, which was not the case because a lot of countries don't issue visa other than their home country because of the regular checks and whatnot. Even now, in some countries,
Exactly.
even now it's the same protocol. But from then to now, our blue passport has kind of got elevated where it was down there.
Correct.
Today, the respect that we have holding a blue passport is phenomenal, absolutely phenomenal. I mean, and I think I am an example. I can showcase myself as an example of having felt the suspicion of looking at the blue passport from my 1989 travels to my 1994 travels to fast forward to 2017 when I took my motorcycle out into the Stan countries. The respect has been phenomenal. I mean, I don't know how to express it otherwise.
Okay.
But yeah, 1994, running to my first visa came in from Germany, no questions asked. Then came UK, then came so many other countries. And I was so confident that, like, "Arey, US bhi aa jayega." And I went to US, and in those days, there was a particular lady who used to literally reject. Her rejection rates were so high.
Okay.
And we had to get into her queue. And the minute, I was just 24. And she looked at me, a couple of questions. My English was also not that good. "Oh, we see you as an intended alien," and tuck. Hold on, what's happening? "I'm sorry, we can't give you a visa."
Okay.
I
This
have
isn't.
all the other countries as per my plan. Australia included, my Egypt. Libya acted a little funny. They gave me a visa, and then the interview happened. And when I told them that, like, I'm cutting across Cairo into Tripoli, and from Tripoli I plan to take a sail into Rome. The minute I said, "Hey, I'm going on a motorcycle," that chap at the counter rejected on the stamp on which my visa was issued. I found that quite absurd. You give me a visa and then have an interview and then cancel my visa. But I said, okay, no problem. I will still do my required kilometers in Egypt. But when I went to the American embassy, that was a very bad. We were second in line. I mean, we took the project bike to test because we were all ready. This is the last week of September, and October 2nd is my flag off.
Okay.
And then we reached Chennai. We were second in queue in the madness of the long queues there. People used to queue up at 4 in the morning for an interview, for a letting in at 9 in the morning. Standing in the queue there. I mean, even today, today you have your timings. I mean, they have evolved as well. But in those days, I'm talking about standing in the queue since 4 in the morning. And when we got the rejection, we were absolutely disheartened because there was no way I would have done 6 continents without the North American continent.
Okay, correct.
So we came back absolutely disheartened. We went to Mr. Tempton Irani's office, and he, on his letterhead, he said, Yezdi is sponsoring these guys and all the costs will be borne, and like whatever the regular sponsorship letter. That was day 2 after rejection. Rejection was yesterday. Today is the fax that's going out of Mr. Tempton's office. And day 3, we are again back there. This time we were number 4th in the queue. So imagine, we are not sleeping. We are just riding between Mysore and Madras. It was Madras then. And then we came to know that the second time applicants will be met only at 4 in the afternoon.
Okay.
So imagine we go in at 9 in the morning and we are sitting there just sipping water till 4. And finally we realize that the visa officer will not be the same who has rejected you once. It's a different officer.
Oh.
And this officer is, like munching away his burger and, like I'm just waiting for him. And before he could speak, I told him, so we have sent you a fax requesting an audience with your ambassador, in my broken English. And in case you feel that you are not ready to give me a visa, before you do anything, can we please meet your ambassador?
Okay.
But by then, that fax, he pulled out that fax, there were some scribbles on it, and then he asked me, how many days are you in my country? I said, I'm in your country for 30 days. That's my plan.
Okay.
And I plan to cover about 20,000 kilometers, and this is my plan. I was just explaining, going on and on and on. By which time he was making some notes and, all right, we'll give you a visa for 3 months. Thank you, sir. That's it. And that helped us to circumnavigate the world across all the 6 continents, 42,038 kilometers, 47 days of riding, and 119 days in all.
Okay, this
And
was
till date, I believe it is a world record because I don't see anybody from any country having covered 42,000 kilometers across all the 6 continents. The reason the 42,000 kilometer comes is because the length of the equator is 40,000 kilometers, 25,000 miles.
okay.
And as per the Guinness guidelines, we needed to cover 40,000 kilometers across all the 6 continents with a minimum of 1,000 miles in each continent
Okay, minimum of 1,000 miles in each continent.
without using the same road twice.
Okay. Oh,
I mean, see, there are certain guidelines which you need to be met in case you are attempting for a record, and we went by the book. And we did it. We got my friends from the US to send us the American Automobile Association, the AAA maps, which I believe, I'm not sure whether they do it anymore, but I believe they were the best in the industry back in those days. So the maps were from AAA. We used to sit on the road and, like spread out the map and, that was fun, number one. Two, we connected more with humans. There were a lot of people with whom we interacted. And thankfully, I would like to take this opportunity to thank Facebook and Mark Zuckerberg. Because of him, I'm connected to so many people who I had met in those days.
correct.
So it's 30 years this year, 1994 to 2024,
Wow.
of having circumnavigated the world in record time.
I think you traveled across the globe in a time period where there were no smartphones, no Google Maps, no probably Google also was maps.
Google was in gestation.
Yeah.
Google came into existence, I think, 97.
Yeah.
But maps came much later.
Yeah, and probably you had your paper maps in your bag, and you would go sit there, open it up, and then mark.
And we were 2 people on one motorcycle.
Wow.
That's the interesting part.
Okay.
A lot of people used to look at us, like, what? 2 people on one motorcycle coming from India? Wow. Yeah.
And then probably you also said about the visa thing.
Yeah.
Now we get a visa for 10 years.
Yeah.
As of today.
This time when I approached the American embassy, when I did my Polar Odyssey,
Okay.
I got my visa in 20 seconds.
Whoa.
20 seconds.
20 seconds.
No questions asked.
Okay.
Because, thanks to the Ministry of External Affairs, with whom, I was very closely coordinating the entire trip, because I was traveling between the North American continents, the American continents, which includes America, the Latam countries, and South American countries. The plan was to cover about 17 countries. I ended up doing about 15 countries. And there was blessings from our late External Affairs Minister, Sushma Swaraji.
Okay.
She's a people's person, and I can tell you so many incidents about her, about the way she came up and helped me and my projects. I mean, that was really interesting. When we reached Mongolia in 2017 and reached the Indian embassy, the Indian ambassador called me aside and said, "Madam was asking about you, because 11 days we were incognito. Nobody knew where we were, because we were riding from Russia into Kazakhstan into Mongolia. So that's a stretch where I did not have any connectivity and no updates.
11 days probably.
11 days.
Okay. What about your family, sir? I mean,
No, family is, my wife's also a hardcore pillion. I mean, I can't call her a rider, but she's been a hardcore pillion and a great support. She's traveled about 100,000 kilometers as my pillion on various of my rides around the world. She's done about 26 countries with the maximum of, travel she did with me in Europe in my most recent ride in 2021 and 22. So we started from the southernmost tip of the African continent. We celebrated 25 years of marriage. And then I went alone all the way up to Morocco. I got her into Morocco, and then we traveled together across almost 24 countries in Europe.
Correct, sir. And going back to again 1995, when you did the whole travel across the world, and how many days, sir, again?
119 days in all, and 47 days on the road.
47 days.
And we have a logbook to that.
Okay.
Every day, get up in the morning, kidhar gaya, kya kiya, kidhar parking kiya, kidhar fuel dala, kahan photo liya. I mean, all these, every bit of it, because that was the need of a documentation.
Correct.
So the whole logbook was about, probably about 55, 60 pages.
Correct.
Of our day-to-day thing, and the entire copy was sent to the Guinness.
And again, you mentioned about the US visa issue which
Yeah.
they did. I think back then we didn't have, WhatsApp, emails,
Nothing.
everything were in fax,
Nothing.
and
Yeah.
probably you,
It was just like trunk call. Call up the operator and said, "Madam, e number ga haki." Then sometimes quickly, sometimes there was also tatkal also, for which you paid additional money. All that dial, that phone, where and speaking also, and the operator is there listening to you, right, bridging the
Okay.
conversation.
Correct.
So I mean, it was fun. I mean, life was slow.
Correct. And now, we have everything in our fingertips.
Yeah.
Still, we tend to, postpone things, probably, procrastinate things. Even I have, travel plan in my head. Probably I'll be like, okay, Maga, this year, we'll go to this place, and next year we'll
Yeah.
visit this country.
I'd like to interrupt you here and
Yeah.
say, see, don't postpone the good things in life. I'll give you an example. I mean, I will not take names here
Okay.
for obvious reasons, because COVID has been an eye opener.
Correct.
COVID literally killed our dreams, right? And not many people realize that, Shashank, we met a few days back. You came home and, we had a good time, speaking about my travels. And then today we are doing this podcast and nobody's seen tomorrow.
Exactly.
So COVID was that. COVID came, COVID killed.
Correct.
Right? So a lot of people in my own travel circle, I know a friend who aspired to travel around the world. So he bought a truck. He kind of went on putting in preparation time into it, saying that one day I'm going to take this and go.
Okay.
And that one day never came. He passed. COVID took his life off. So today, I see, I was to work in a financial institution. They asked me to relocate to Hyderabad. I said, I'm not married to work. It was a very difficult decision. But for me, it has been a bold decision. And thankfully, my wife stood by my, decision and said, jo hoga so dekha jayega. And then, I just went out and traveled. I sold my dreams on a PowerPoint presentation, and I got people to fund it, corporates to fund it, and I'm there.
I mean, this is truly
2015, we finished our commitments with our daughter's education.
Okay.
The last time I was actually riding a motorcycle was 1994-95.
Okay.
And after that, 96 was marriage and social responsibility and, commitment to family and daughter's education and all those, that drained 2 decades. Today, I am happy to say that there's a good social life. I'm happy about what we have done in our lives. And 2015, when a motorcycle brand was getting launched in the country, we went to have a touch and feel of the bike before making an investment. And the bike that I really aspired to buy was about 2 lakhs more than what I had thought.
Okay, which was this bike, sir?
Benelli 600 GT.
Okay.
And I was like, damn, I don't think I can afford it. And then my wife comes into the picture and says, if not now, when? So she keeps the 2 lakhs and, let's go ahead and buy it. So 2015, we bought it sometime in June.
Okay.
And that same year, I took her to Bhutan and Arunachal Pradesh. We rode from here.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And 2016, we did Sikkim and Nepal. And 2017 was Trans-Siberian Odyssey across the Stan countries on the Bajaj Dominar. That laid a foundation for my next 2 big rides. Stan countries was Tajik, Kyrgyz, Kazakh, Mongolia, and Russia.
Okay.
Started from Uzbekistan actually, Tashkent into Tajik into Kyrgyzstan, Kazakhstan, Mongolia, and Russia. And when the President Motorcycles got to know that, the Bajaj Dominar has accomplished the Road of Bones, even today when I say we have done the Road of Bones, a lot of people will not know what is Road of Bones.
Correct.
So, I take a step back and say, this road is treated as a memorial by most of the Russians in Siberia.
Okay.
And this goes back to Stalin era, wherein, that region being very rich in minerals, he used the political, political, insurgents to mine. And because Siberia is extremely cold and people started dying. There's a place called Omicron wherein the lowest temperature recorded is minus 72.
Minus 72.
Minus 7, and people live there.
Okay.
And it's not physically, fit to be, you can't do any laborious work.
Okay.
But when Stalin, forced them, people started dying. So they didn't know what to do with the bodies. So the bodies were laid on the roads, and the road's name is the Road of Bones. So people say that at least there's one family member of every family whose remains are on that road. So Stalin has not been a popular leader, and hence the road called the Road of Bones.
Okay.
It's only lunatics like us. We want in the name of adventure. There are people who travel from London to Magadan, which is one of the easternmost point of Siberia, Russia. But Russians themselves, they avoid going on that road for obvious reasons. And the president motorcycle was happy that the Bajaj Dominar has accomplished this, and he said if there's one place where I really want my motorcycles to go, would be on the flight path of the Condor. I didn't know what a Condor was, but at that moment I saw an opportunity, and I came back to the hotel room. I went through about what a Condor is, realized the road or the path, from California into the Andes. And the next time when I met the President Motorcycles, I said, we are anyway doing the Americas, and we are anyway doing the South America. Why don't I put a magnanimous plan of riding from the Arctic to the Antarctic?
Okay, so this is again the northernmost point of the globe to the southernmost point of the globe.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So we landed in Anchorage, from Anchorage to Dead Horse.
Okay.
And from Dead Horse, cutting across on the top of the world highway into Canada, then taking a left towards Dempster Highway, which is again one of the most dangerous roads in the world, going all the way to Tuktoyaktuk, and coming down to Whitehorse and then to Vancouver, and had my wife join me in Vancouver, and then with her traveling about 19,000 kilometers across the US, and letting her go home from San Francisco, and then taking the road down to the Baja, which is 1,000 miles, going down all the way to Cabo San Lucas, taking the ferry to Topolobampo, which is mainland Mexico, and then hooking up on the Pan American Highway, going down all the way down to Ushuaia.
Okay. I think, I think those who are watching this episode, you might wonder what this is behind.
You might want to have a world map in front of you.
Exactly, what this is behind me. Okay, so basically sir has a setup wherein, he has a world map over here, and wherever he has traveled in his bike, right, all those places he has marked it in chain.
Yeah.
Chain.
Thanks to my good friends from Wood and Watt, Aditya and Bhagwati, husband and wife.
Exactly.
So they created this for me. Yeah.
You'll be, watching whatever it is over here. So, he has hung up all the tires, wherein he has traveled. If he has traveled across, US, he has hung up the same tire on his wall to showcase, how it looks, effortlessly done. But, when we sit and,
we did this during COVID time. So I must say it took us about 1.5 years, right from the time it was conceptualized to sampling to, the entire thing. Bhagwati has got a really creative mind.
Exactly.
And very suitably supported by Adi and his team. They came down here, odd hours, working late hours, and they helped me put up this dream.
I mean, this looks so neat and, so nicely made. But, every square inch has a, probably 200 to 300 kilometers story to be told.
Probably even more. It's about 600,000 kilometers back there.
600,000 kilometers. Wow. Thank you for watching this episode. Make sure you watch the part 2 of the same episode with Deepak sir, where he has shared one of the most brutal experiences which he had during his travel adventures.